I'd like to now convene our panel session, and so I'd like to invite Chuck Micallef, who's the marketing manager from what is now the FieldComm group, to join Shadrach here, as I'd like Kevin Snowden to come back, and Matt Cicciari, Assistant Director of Solution Marketing at Meridium, to join him up on the panel. And while everyone's making their way up here, I'd like to make this announcement, in that the cocktail and dinner reception has been moved indoors this evening. I guess it's a little chilly outside. So it's going to be in the atrium of the hotel next to the sushi bar. So just go out to the lobby area and you'll find it. I'd like to thank both of our speakers. I guess I'll sit down if you made room for me. I'd like to thank both of our Dow speakers, in particular first, because I believe that both of your talks demonstrated why Dow is a leader, a manufacturing leader, and the way that you go about things. It seems like you're flattening your organization as opposed to making it more complex. You're trying to take the complexity out of it in some degree, which I think is going to be necessary. Oh, I'm sorry. Our AV assistant, Interpreet Choker, our colleague, will be passing around the microphone for any questions, if you have any. But I just wanted to wrap that up first. I definitely see that, because I think that you've demonstrated that in order to reach the vision of the industrial Internet of Things means that we have to be doing things that we're doing now and doing them well and really having a handle on them, because we won't be able to move forward if we don't do what we're doing now well. I don't know whether you agree with that or not. But
I agree. I would say that if you look at some of the services, or we call them services because I kind of think of ourselves as a company. But if you look at what we did in our reliability improvement, a lot of this is like no new innovation, like visual assessments, like doing strategy work, like getting resources aligned, like creating procedures. I mean, these are things that have been done for 30, 40 years in instrumentation. But I think what happens is, you mentioned the complexity part of it, is making it simple, not necessarily easy. Right. You know, making sure that at all levels of your organization, no matter if you're in operations or maintenance or reliability, that they understand what the value drivers are, and then removing the barriers so that the folks at the ground level can solve the problems. And I think that's really where, obviously I think Dow has focused in, is trying to take that complexity out of the picture, getting back to the basics. Let's start off there, and then identify where technology can help us make that step change. And it's almost perfect for our program, because we saw success by just doing some of the basic things, but when we got a hold of diagnostics, it's like, okay, this is a game changer. Now we say that we want to go to zero unplanned events. Now we can actually do it, because we're doing the upfront work in our reliability efforts, but now we have more information so we can be more strategic in solving those problems.
And I think there's a build on that too, is that getting simple, getting everything down to, like the thing we say is one global set, one code set, like get everyone on that. It positions us, because we have a multi-generational plan in place for additional functionality that we want to roll out in, this year, next year, the year after that. But we got to get this right now, and that's what we've been working on. And that's part of the mission of showing people how to see your data, get it right. Because once you get that right, then we're going to be able to do a lot of other things that they're going to be really groundbreaking.
Yeah. Just one more thing before I open up the questions to the floor. Chuck, in particular, Shadrach has made his headway using HART, and I think a lot of people think that HART may be a little past its prime or something like that, but I would disagree wholeheartedly. There's a whole lot of information that you can get out of HART that you may not realize. Do you want to expound on that a little bit?
Sure. First of all, it becomes necessary to actually get a sense as to what is the scope or availability of smart instruments in the field. And I need to tell you that something like 80 to 90% of all instrumentation today shipped are smart, independent of the protocol. It doesn't matter what the protocol is only the pipe. Who cares? One way it gets information from the device up to the system. So knowing that the vast majority of instruments out there that are shipped every year are smart instruments, and then also over 50 million installed devices around the world have this kind of capability. And the diagnostics information ranges from very simple basic things as to the status, green light, red light, yellow light, caution kind of thing, the status, different dashboards, different tools out there, all the way to being able to drill down and to talk to the device, and ask the device not only the health of the device, but also possibly the health of the process. There's process information. These devices are becoming smarter and smarter, and the key is to start using them. So chances are good you have smart devices out there. Chances are good you got infrastructure within your plant, as Shadrach had, that gives you access to that information. The key is change the culture, change the idea, get the focus, learn what these devices is actually reporting to you, and take some action and do something with the information.
Good. Thanks, Chuck. I'll open it up to the floor. Any questions? Oh, we have one over here. I'm still blinded by the light here.
I'm guessing, Chuck, you might be able to address this. One of the things that we've done, we just built a new plant, and we put a lot of instrumentation and controls, of course, in there, and I think we've done a good job because we had to for the operation of the plant in making all of that stuff work together. One of the things that we haven't done so well at, and I'd be interested to know some ideas on bridging this, is getting the information back out of those devices and creating some kind of a system so that I can have a valve tell me that there's stiction going on, as you had mentioned, Shadrach. Maybe understanding that a fryer temperature should be 380 and not 600 degrees. What ideas do you have for bridging that gap and taking that information and creating an actionable log or an actionable process out of it?
Do you know for sure that the system that you've installed is like HART enabled? Yeah. You have smart I/O? Yeah. Okay, so you already have the information coming in. If you're basically 4 to 20 milliamps, the HART data is sitting there, not on the wire, but in the device, just waiting to be asked, right? HART is a request-reply kind of communication. So the device is waiting to talk. So you got to get it out there. So I would certainly sit down with your automation provider and go through what really you have there and what do you have to get, what do they have to provide to you, either as part of the host system, the control system or whatever it is, or even an add-on asset management that would give you access to that information.
So someone's going to write some code somewhere.
All these tools are off the shelf now. There's no need to write any code. All major instrumentation providers, control system providers, host providers have asset management tools or device configuration packages. They all have those things available. And if you look hard enough, you may find that you actually have it there somewhere. If not, it wouldn't be hard to add to it. Assuming you have that HART I/O, you're 90% of the way there.
Yep.
Yep.
Good news.
Because you actually found out that you had smart valve positioners, right?
Yeah, we already have. I mean, most of the manufacturers, the control DCS manufacturers, already have, like you said, bolt-on packages. And so all you have to do is enable it, maybe get the license for it or work with your automation provider and turn it on. I mean, we had an asset management program that we used that was really on the shelf collecting dust. And what we did was get a license for it, turn it on, and there you go. We started implementing our diagnostics program as a result of that.
If I can add, so there's a case where you are pretty well enabled already. For those of you that are not enabled, if you have an older system and you probably not with having the luxury to have smart I/O, There's many tools, from a simple handheld device on a one device to the handheld, to a PC-based configuration tool. You know, we're talking less than $5,000, to smart multiplexers, where you take the 4 to 20 milliamp wire in, 4 to 20 milliamp wire out, nothing changes with the control system, and you lift up the data. You lift up the hard data, and that could go to a PC-based configuration or asset management system. Lots of different ways. FF, you know, whether you use hard or foundation field bus or Profibus or, you know, whatever protocol you're talking about, there are tools and ways to access that information without ripping out and having to wait for a, you know, a major upgrade or a major wholesale system upgrade or anything like that.
Yeah, Chuck's right. I mean, how long has HART been a standard option in devices? Long time now. So I think that we're just not using it to the best of its capabilities in a lot of cases. Any other questions? Let's have one. No. Don't be shy. Okay, I'm going to ask Matt. Matt, what are companies, asset performance management companies such as Meridium doing to prepare for the Internet of Things in the asset performance management role in that vision?
Sure. So part of what we provide is scope of software as well as services to help extract that information. And working from way back to, you know, the buzzwords today are machine to machine and the Internet of Things, or the industrial Internet of Things. That's what our company has been doing for the last 20-something years. Basically taking that information out of the equipment, aggregating it, and as Kevin was talking about, getting it to a point where you can cleanse it, organizing it, and turning it from data into information that you can actually take actionable steps to make corrections, whether it be around risk or safety or cost, availability or reliability. So we continue to strive to enhance the products that we provide by simplifying the interfaces into the various systems that we support, whether it be through out-of-the-box connections and integrations into the standard EAM and CMMS systems that we integrate with, creating a center of excellence to enable newer, faster types of connections, and basically building the black box of capability to suck in data from any format, any system, and allow that black box to kind of interpret and get it into the asset performance management solution, therefore greatly reducing the time it takes to get up and running, get that information off the equipment and into the system and in front of the engineer, so that they can, as you said, Kevin, start to play engineer and do what they were hired to do, which is interpret and analyze and take action against that information. And we'll continue to strive to leverage technology to make that faster and easier, so there's less manual engagement, automate things as much as possible, but in a safe, secure manner.
Okay. Oh, we have a question.
Hi, this question's, I guess, to Dow. You mentioned new SAP, and I know you all have been on SAP for quite a while. And the question I'm driving at is master data, single version of the truth. You look at AMS, Meridium, SAP, they all have their own database. Has Dow rationalized that analysis, and where is the master data? Is it in SAP PM, or who's the boss in this whole?
Well, yeah, I mean, when we teach it, it's got to be in SAP or we don't see it, right? When it comes to asset or equipment data, it's got to be in SAP. And we've got a rigorous work process for putting it there and then for managing it so that nobody can corrupt it. And we work very hard at, like I say, using the taxonomy and making sure they get it, put it in the right object type code. We have all the characteristics we bring in. We have a lot of folks that manage that data, and even going back to harmonizing on setting up parts and getting part numbers. We have a central group now, global group, that does that. They're always looking to make sure we're not creating new numbers for a part that already should be or is in the system. But vigorous data management of the system. We have what we call master data administrators. around the world. Don't say that too fast, but master data administrators around the world who are responsible for keeping that data aligned to the guidelines that we have. And they're independent. You know, Shadrach can't come and break their knuckles. He just cannot come make them do something that, and that's what we did, is we took them out of the line organization, as it were, right? Because it used to be, if it was the line, if I was in a plant, I could make it do whatever I wanted to. We don't do that anymore. We realized that was a major issue. Well, we can give it a try. I mean, you know, we had an older version, but we converted the entire company, and it was in a phase. I mean, we literally turned North America on in November. And that was, you know, we did it by region of the world and by the Roman Haas acquisition. They went first, and then just so we get them into the same. But then we've been moving everybody across to, and for us, for me, it was more coming off the ancient CMMSs, which were not SAP-based. And now we're all over there. Now everything's over there. The EAM is SAP, and we go through that.
One more follow-up. Did it go from many instances to one instance of SAP?
Oh yeah, there's just one.
That's remarkable. That's remarkable.
Yeah, there's just one. And I showed one of our global leaders. You know, I just pulled up. You want to see all the centrifugal pumps in Dow and how much we've paid in repairs? And I used Meridium. I just, you know, because SAP, the data's there. It's just difficult to get. Used Meridium, brought it up, and we literally timed it 8 seconds. I had all 38,000 centrifugal pumps, and shown him and ranked them by cost. And then I say, I can now make this sing. Well, however you want to look at it, we can slice and dice it. But we have one system worldwide, and everybody in Dow can read it. Only certain people can write to it at their right place, but everybody can read everything.
Yeah, one thing I can add to that is, so the Diamond systems that Peter talked about is, so that was a recent activity. So I think when you say, okay, we have had SAP for years, we have had pockets of regions that have been implementing it. And the North American region, I think, was the largest out of all of the regions. So if you look back, it's probably, you know, I don't know if we're actually at 100% yet. I don't know. So on SAP, yep. So that is a recent, you know, technology to really get all of the heritage CMMS systems into one. So I guess what I'm saying is, it's not really been a year-over-year kind of a plan. You're talking about, at least in the last year, we've made huge strides in being able to sync all this data into one.
Anybody else? Oh, here we go. Kevin Price.
Hey, I'm a louder individual. Okay. I'm a louder individual now. You guys have a lot of assets. You've done some wonderful projects to determine how to improve efficiency, costs, and really get down to the nitty-gritty of how it's done. Meridium is a good tool to help identify the process of choosing which project to go after, because you have a lot of assets to determine. What's the decision-making process to say this type of asset we're going to go after, that type of asset we're going to go after? Because each asset carries a different type of risk matrix, right? Safety, cost, effect to quality. There's a whole lot of different variables that go into play. How do you make that decision? Can you comment just a little bit on the process that you would go through and looking at the different asset types and how you make a decision over one project versus another?
Yeah, I'm going to let you take this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure either one of us is probably the right person to answer that question, but you know, before we didn't have the capability.
We need to bring Deb up for her opinion on that.
We didn't have the capability to even see the data. You know, now we do, and I think still a lot of the decisions or the needs will be driven at a local need. But now that we have the data and we can go to our technology centers, they can see these things either in the business technology centers to look at their equipment, or we have what we call our technical resource networks, which are a group of corporate-wide subject matter experts that only look at compressors, and another group that only looks at instruments. Those folks now can look at and then to begin to determine, and actually, you know, using the vision I have is use Asset Answers to show them that. And we could probably talk more later about that, but Asset Answers allows for some very incredible comparison, not only within us, but against the manufacturers of the different equipment that we have. You know, centrifugals, Goulds against Duriron, and, well, I guess they are Goulds now, but, you know, I can bring them all up and lump them together, and we can literally map, you know, number of incidents versus cost, and then they have a great bubble chart, which then gives us, the bubble is the size of the population, and we'll put the average work order costs against, you know, number of incidents and things like that, and it allows us to start doing that analysis, the quartile analysis, where we want to be and things like that. It's just a powerful when we get all these new diagnostics together, and it's marrying them up, because, again, we use, as you know, I tried to mention, we use Asset Answers as the first filter, and then I go to APM, Meridium APM, to do the heavy lifting for the analysis, whether it's, you know, viable distributions or reliability growth or all those things. That's where we go do the heavy-duty lifting. We get to play engineer there.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to ask Kevin again about your data cleansing project. I know that that's a significant pain point in a lot of migrations and can be the source of failure if you don't do it. There's no point in bringing bad data in.
Right.
And certainly as we get into IoT, we don't want to be sending a signal down to the wrong device or anything like that. So talk about your data cleansing project a little bit, if you will.
Well, again, there are probably others from Dow that could speak to that, because I was on the front end. That's back when I was an RE, and we were in the old legacy systems. And part of that first one was just to make sure that we did have things in the right buckets. And it was incredible to find. You know, we had motors that were being identified as centrifugal pumps and things like that. So we worked real hard to get that over. And then we worked hard at explaining to people what the new taxonomy was, because we had to get them in the right buckets and explaining them the taxonomy and working through it. That was a huge undertaking. That was a lot of angst, a lot of hours spent. You know, when you look, I mean, because literally it's over 2 million functional locations and pieces of equipment that we did that for. And but there was commitment. Again, we look at it, you know, we did the benchmarking, you know, 5-6 years ago, if not longer, about what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do that, and that was considered best practice. You've got to cleanse, it's got to be clean, you've got to get down to a manageable number of object types, and to have then absolute, you know, adherence to global administration of the data after that. And that's why we separated that group, you know, that they are organizationally agnostic to the operations and maintenance and everybody else. That's their job, is to protect that data and keep it clean. And then we had to build the process too, because we do find where we made some errors. You know, it's not because people didn't do it or they did it on purpose. It's just, hey, you know, the subtlety and the differences, and now we get them changed. Although I have to laugh, I don't understand why a deep water port gets put on an elevator, but that, you know, those are rare and few between, but it's anecdotal, it's fun to talk about and make it that way, you know?
Yeah, agreed. Anybody? Okay, before I dismiss the group, any other comments you'd like to add before we depart?
I have one.
Go right ahead.
Don't mind?
I knew you would, Chuck.
Thank you. Some of you might have heard that as Paula introduced us, we're now the FieldComm group, and it's really a combination of the Field Bus Foundation and the Heart Communication Foundation coming together, kind of moving in together, if you will, under one roof. So from an administrative standpoint, you can imagine all the duplication that existed within two organizations. Membership was very similar. So now from an administrative standpoint, it is under one roof, and couple months from now, they'll actually be relocating, and both groups will be located in the same facility. But the key point that I wanted to make, and thank you for the opportunity here, is that the number one question we get asked is my investment at risk about any of the protocols? And the answer is no. There is absolutely no way that the technologies are going to be touched or hard. In fact, they're only going to be supported and continued working through our working group process, continue to be enhanced where it makes sense. We're going to have more user input. We got, you know, a larger pool of resources now to work on the technology. So there is absolutely no risk to making continuing investments in smart devices or control systems that use either the Foundation Field Bus Protocol or the Heart Communication Protocol, and hopefully mid-year we'll be bringing in the FDI technology also into the same household. So I hope that answered any questions if anyone was concerned about that.